Hello, I'm Sara Maude. I'm the Managing Director of the Minds Solution. And when I'm not helping organisations to deliver their wellbeing and mental health strategies, I'm here in Edinburgh running a private clinic for the gorgeous people of Scotland, like Scott, who has kindly come along today to talk about your journey in overcoming 33 years worth of anxiety.
Yeah.
Goodness me. So for the benefit of people listening here today, it would be great if you can tell me, Scott, before you reached out to get help in the form of solution-focused psychotherapy and hypnotherapy, i.e. me, what was life like before you reached out and got help?
Well, I suffered from anxiety, as you say, for about 33 years. And during that time, it sort of like cycled. It felt really anxious, sweats, sort of at times not being able to cope with general life. It was always a case of worrying about things like health anxiety, things that would probably never happen to me, but these were worries that I had at the time. And then I would go and see the doctor, and the doctor would prescribe me with some different anti-anxiety tablets. So I've tried different products from them, and each time I went back to say that I was still feeling like this, they either upped the dose or we changed the tablets that they gave me.
So how long were you on medication for in total, Scott?
Over that period of time, I would imagine it was probably about 15 or 16 years.
15 or 16 years.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So every time you went back to the GP and said, I'm still in this state of mind, was there any other intervention that was offered to you other than we'll up your dose or we'll change the medication?
Not initially, not until about 4 years ago. They offered CBT, which is a cognitive behavioural therapy, and I gave that a try, but it didn't seem to work for me. Went back to the doctor, and basically they said that just to continue on with the prescribed anti-anxiety.
So you had to be on medication for over 10 years before you'd even get any sniff of a different intervention.
Yeah.
So I remember the day that you contacted me and you were in a little bit of a tiz, you were at work. But for the benefit of people that are watching this video, hypnotherapy has sometimes got a few associations with it.
Yeah.
What was it that made you reach out for this kind of help above anything else?
Well, this time around I've been on the antidepressants for about 10 years. I had recently changed from one make to another because these ones were no longer having taken them for, I think it was about 6 years, and it stopped working and I was feeling more and more anxious. We changed over to new ones. They worked for about a month, 2 months, and they started going away again. Anxiety was becoming more and more prominent in my life, and I felt that I just had to do something to change. We'd gone through the CBT, which again didn't help anything, but when I searched on the internet to find out different ways to try and control my anxiety, it was then that I noticed that hypnotherapy could be a thing to do.
And during a very short space of time, I think we worked together for about a period of 6 months, you completely overcame your anxiety, you completely overcame your panic attacks and your depression, but you also experienced other shifts that perhaps you hadn't been expecting at the beginning. And again, for people watching this, I'd love you to tell people what you've experienced as a result of alternative therapy.
Well, as a result, even from the very first session, I felt a difference. The difference was incredible, to be honest. You hear people saying, oh, it changed my life around right away, but actually it really did. The moment I walked out from that first session, I knew that things I was taking control of my own future, and not to be controlled by any worries or anxieties that I had about dying or things like that. These were the things that were basically taking control of my life. Now I was able to take control of my life myself and get doing the things that I wanted to do. I was overweight. I lost within 2 years from that first session. I've lost 4 stone. I've joined a health club through Hibernian Football Club, which is run by the Scottish Professional Football League. And through that, we have done over 70 different races, obstacle course racing.
They're not obstacle course racing, they're crazy races from some of the descriptions you've given me.
Yeah, mud, sweat, tears, everything. We've done a massive amount. We joined at the same time as my friend, and together he's helped everything, we've done the Spartan races, we've been all over the UK doing them. Last year we raised £11,500 for the Beats and Cancer charity solely through doing the racing. This is something that we were passionate about. Not only were we helping ourselves, but also we were helping other people through raising the money for the charity. I never ever thought that anything could be changed in my life to how I feel about things now. I still get a wee bit of anxiety. I know how to control it. It's just, the difference is absolutely incredible.
And as you say, it's natural that sometimes in our life we can all experience feeling a little bit anxious based on an event or a situation that we're in. But it's very different to this long-term chronic anxiety that you'd experienced before. Starting
off as a 9-year-old kid, worrying about things that go on in life that a 9-year-old kid shouldn't really worry about, because it's going to be years and years and years down the line, as in like dying. That was most of my anxiety throughout my whole life has been health-based, worrying about if something was wrong with me or something like that. These were the anxieties that I had. So it really has controlled my life throughout that whole period of time. And after that first session and following on sessions, I felt better and better and better about myself, and those anxieties are totally gone now.
And as you say, through working together, you've not only got to the root cause of what was creating these responses in your body and in your mind, but you've also learnt coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
You've been able to understand more about what your mind and body is doing and how to look after that in the long term, haven't you?
Yes, yeah.
And what difference has that made, Scott, understanding kind of what's going on in here and learning how to take care of it in much the way you might take care of a car?
Yeah, well, through your sessions, you were explaining all the different things that go on within your head and what can affect it as well, whether it be sugar or anything, things that you're eating. So in order to change the way that I felt about life and the way that life affected me, I had to make these changes, and having made those changes, the difference has just been unbelievable.
So it was really more of a holistic approach, which, as we've talked about, taking a pill in the form of an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety tablet doesn't get to the root. No. It masks the symptoms, but it also doesn't educate you on how to take care of you long term and teach you the right coping mechanisms.
Yes, that's right.
So how important do you think, as somebody that suffered for a long time, up until a couple of years ago, Scott, how important do you think it is for the NHS to change the way that they're tackling mental health and having people that are offering alternative ways of treating mental health and cultivating a healthy working mind, such as hypnotherapy, EFT, which I know that you took to like a duck to water, matrix re-imprinting, NLP, EMDR, all of these different things which we use together. How important do you think it is for the NHS to embrace these alternative ways?
I think rather than masking the problem with people giving them anti-anxiety pills, I think it should be an approach that is taken on by the NHS, just for sheer, there must be costing a lot of money for the NHS to give out all these anti-anxiety medications, whereas if they could take an approach where people could come and see a professional. Mental health's got a right stigma attached to it, and I think that the more people are open about it, the more people can realise that they're not alone in that situation. And I think that going to see someone and then going on a holistic project, it teaches you that there's not anything wrong with you. It's more how life has affected you and what can be done to change those effects. So rather than masking the problem with giving you some tablets, then if you went to see someone, they explain to you, listen, you're not, there's nothing like seriously wrong with you. This is how I felt, because I always felt there's something seriously wrong with me, part of anxiety, yeah. However, if you go and speak to someone and explain how you are, and they can talk you through everything, then it makes you a lot better. I think money-wise, I think that would save a lot of money.
I can imagine, because as you say, if you were on medication, and in Scotland our prescriptions are free, if you're on medication for over 10 years and you're taking something every single day, I would love to know how much that has cost over a 10-year period compared to actually treating you so that you never go back to that state of mind, because we've resolved the root problem and you've got the knowledge and coping skills to keep you on track now. I'd love to be able to have done a cost analysis to show. So we know that it's important to have these alternative therapies. Why, out of interest, do you think, Scott, they're not available on the NHS?
I think it must come down to, I didn't know anything about it until I searched on the internet, so it's not something that the first thing that everybody thinks of. I'm not going to take these tablets, I'll go and speak to a hypnotherapist and we'll get some help there. So it needs to be brought into the public mind in order for people to start realising that there is other things out there that we can try in order to help, because this is exactly what I did. So I feel that if doctors were to start using people like yourself in order to help people, that would be the best thing.
Maybe it's because everyone thinks that I'm going to make them cluck like a chicken or I'm going to dangle something in front of them. But from your experience, it wasn't like that.
Absolutely
was
not.
It?
Absolutely not. Of all of my anxieties, that wasn't one that I was worried about when I came to see you. I was more interested in just making sure that I got myself better, and I come into an environment where it was calm, soothing voice, someone that was there to listen to you. Something that never ever happened throughout my whole time was I could speak to my wife, I could speak to my friends, because I don't have any problems about speaking about anxiety or like mental illness. A lot of people do, and I think that for someone to come into a room and speak to someone that they've never met before, it can be quite difficult. But I found it really easy, to be honest, because the open-mindedness of yourself, and then you come in, you can speak to someone, and when you speak to someone about how you're feeling, you start feeling a bit better about yourself right away, because things start not being as bad as what you actually think it is.
Sure. You mentioned CBT before, which if we look at the NHS, well, things are changing very slowly in that we're starting to see alternative therapies creeping onto the radar. The traditional route, if one is even offered, is counselling or CBT. Why do you think this approach of using solution-focused psychotherapy, hypnotherapy, EFT, matrix reimprinting, EMDR, NLP, gosh, I was throwing everything at you, wasn't I? Why do you think these approaches which are designed more to rewire your brain worked above CBT, in your opinion?
The CBT was sort of helping you to cope with the symptoms rather than looking for the root cause of the symptoms.
Sure.
So it was a coping mechanism for you. You took the antidepressants or anti-anxieties, and you got your CBT, which helped you try and cope more with your anxiety about your resting heart rate and things like that, and trying to reduce your heart rate and take deep breaths and breathe through the stomach and things like that. All very good, and they will work for people as well. I just felt that it didn't work for me, because things that are out there don't work for everyone. So coming in here and finding the root cause to actually what started that all those years ago when I was 9 years old or whatever, round about then, to come through my life, to work out all the different things that have affected me in my life, and it's been causing the anxiety that I had, to change the way that I thought about what happened then, and things like that, certainly helps the way that I think about health anxiety now, definitely.
So it's like a giant tree that's grown branches and sprouts roots, and actually we pulled up the roots so that actually they're never going to grow again.
That's right.
And for organisations, because you were at work for the majority of your time when you were suffering from anxiety, how important do you think it is for organisations to invest in proactive resilience, well-being and mental health training, Scott?
Once again, the stigma that's attached to mental health, people don't want to speak about it. Although I think if a company was to introduce a program into their work scope, and everyone at work took part in the mental health, not questionnaire, but sort of like a little exercise in mental health, it brings the awareness that everybody can be affected by mental health. And I feel that if a company was to open up and let everyone become part of a program, basically, then it's going to help their workers be reducing stress or things like that. I think that companies, it'd be a good thing for a company. Companies are big on health and safety, and they want everything to be done properly and made sure that nothing's going to be detrimental to the health of their employees, whereas mental health is not even thought about.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I think that if a program was introduced by a company for a mental health part of the program, then people, whether it's anonymous or not, can go and say, listen, this is how I feel actually, this is a good thing, you know. And then if they use people like yourself, the companies, then that certainly would help their employees.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, Scott. I mean, it's been a pleasure to work with you and help you, but it's so wonderful to have somebody talk so openly about how different forms of intervention have helped them. So we hope that for those of you that are watching, that this has inspired you, that whatever is going on for you, there are different ways and means of tackling it. It's not all available on the NHS yet, but that's part of my dream and my plan to change how we are cultivating healthy working minds and bodies in the UK. So if you have any comments, any questions, I would love to hear from you. Contact details can be found down below. I'm Sara Maude, Managing Director of The Mind Solution, and goodbye from myself and Scott.
Bye.